Welcome to another Tracking Trends Thursday with Kristen Mason Coreas, owner of the Homes by Mason team. Today is Thursday, October 9th. Let's dive into what is happening in real estate in our area as well as in the larger area. Starting with the interest rates, they did inch down. Actually, I wouldn't say inch. Inch is larger. They just came down a touch to 6.3. They were at 6.34 as of last week, and you can see that that is basically as low as we have been in, sorry. There we go. I wanted you to see that. Just as low as we've been basically in the past year, 6.3. So from that perspective, it's a good place to be, as low as we've been in the past year. And in terms of national economic news, which we look at because that influences what is happening with interest rates. So the biggest news, of course, is the government shutdown, and that does certainly have a larger impact in our area than it does nationally, although it certainly does have an impact nationally as well. We, being in the backyard of the national government, are impacted more significantly because so many of the people around us are federal employees and are currently on furlough and not getting paid. So for sure, we are going to feel that in our market. In addition to that, the news here says that private payrolls, so put the federal government aside, but private payrolls saw their biggest decline in 2.5 years during September. So that is a sign of a weaker job market. And when people aren't working or not getting paid what they expected to be paid, then they're going to be less likely, let's say, to buy homes. And so due to the weakening economy that we are experiencing, there's increased speculation that the Fed will drop their rate again when they meet at the end of October. October 28th to 29th is when they will be meeting next. And actually in August, now this is old news because I think it's less relevant to what's happening right now, but pending sales of existing homes had a solid increase in August to the highest level in 5 months, and that was likely related to the decrease in mortgage rates. However, we're in different times now than we were in August with, again, that government shutdown being the biggest thing probably impacting what we're going to see on the ground of real estate. Data does suggest that home price growth is actually cooling nationwide. Appreciation is decelerating. That is what I have been expecting and saying here to expect. When we have more supply, less demand, that is going to have a flattening impact, at least, on prices and price growth. So let's look at next what is happening in the Mid-Atlantic region, which includes the areas of Virginia, DC, Maryland, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, Delaware, and New Jersey. So there we are seeing steady increases in sellers dropping their asking prices. That makes sense. We are seeing increased showings above last year. And that also makes sense because there are more homes to see. We do continue to have more inventory than we had last year. So more inventory equals more showings, as long as buyers are out. So the lower interest rates as well do contribute to buyers being out. And then contracts are actually up from 2024. And the statement here from Bright MLS is saying more inventory, lower mortgage rates, and more price negotiation opportunity is bringing buyers off the sidelines. October is not a bad time to be a buyer, in fact, because inventory is decent generally, historically, in the month of October. And there's less buyer activity, there's less competition generally in the month of October. And so you might actually see on my social media feed that there's some signs that October is the best time to be buying. It's a good time to be buying for those reasons. And so in the larger DC metro area here, we are seeing either things flat or down. So showings here in our larger DC metro area are actually down by almost 5%. They're flat year over year. Purchase contracts also down by almost 6%. And this is week over week. Also down 3% year over year. Time to contract longer by 3 days, week over week, longer by 1 day year over year, with a median time to contract from going on the market of 31 days. I am adjusting to that. I am helping my sellers adjust to that. I have been spoiled for a really long time. 6 days on market was my average consistently for a really long time. My lifetime average days on market was 16. I think that's actually what I'm showing at right now. So right now, it was 11, I think, before now. I think I was averaging 11 lifetime days on market for my career in real estate. And right now I think I'm at 16. So, and I am feeling and experiencing listings last longer than 16 days on the market. I've had several of those this year. So I am adjusting. I'm helping my sellers adjust to that different expectation that it is taking longer than it used to sell homes in our area due to all of the factors going on. New listings are up in the DC metro area, both year over year and week over week, 9% year over year, 4% week over week. Median list price is up year over year by about 4%, but actually down 4% week over week. And active inventory is up 37.5% year over year, flat week over week. So that's what's happening in the larger DC metro area. And then in our hyper local area, which is Arlington, Alexandria, Fairfax, and Falls Church, where we do most of our business at Homes by Mason, this is the data that we run manually for you. We run it from Tuesday to Wednesday of each week to give you the most up-to-date, most local information that we're able to get our hands on for you. You can see here that new listings and new under contracts are up slightly from the week before and up slightly from the average for the year. So these blue bars are the new listings, and generally we are trending higher than we have previously in terms of number of new listings week over week. And contracts as well were slightly higher than we were earlier this year through the summer months in any case. And the gap between those, we're going to look at in 2 more slides, is that demand to supply ratio. So the gap between how many new listings came on the market and how many homes went under contract in a week is that demand to supply. And you can see, so that's the gap between the top of the blue line and the top of the red line. That is widening. That demand to supply ratio is getting smaller in terms of a percentage. And that when you look back in time, the gap between the blue line and the red line, especially in the beginning of the year, was so small. So that means that almost all of the homes that come on the market get eaten up by a contract and doesn't increase inventory. But when we see the gap between new listings and contracts, that is why we end up with leftover inventory. That is why buyers have a little more breathing room and have more opportunities when that gap shows up. So again, a relatively good time to be a buyer in our market. Week over week, again, this shows you how much we were up. The trends here are not consistent, as I've talked about before. Some weeks were up over the week before, and some weeks were down. So last week we were down week over week in both inventory and contracts, and this week we're up in both inventory and contracts week over week. The next chart looks at year over year and that demand to supply ratio that I was talking about. So year over year, we are up in inventory and up in demand. And so the inventory is the red bar and the contracts are the green bar. And the blue is that demand to supply ratio, which, oops, whoa, what happened there? So over here, I've got the specific numbers for you. So this year, the demand to supply ratio was only 70%. That's a relatively low number from what I'm used to seeing. Last year was 97%. So that is the best kind of way that I can show you in the data what we are feeling on the ground of real estate in terms of less demand to supply. More breathing room, more time available for buyers to make decisions on listings in our hyperlocal area. Days on market did come down by 1 day. I think we're at 27 days on market for our average days on market in our area. And you can see the interest rate just coming down a little bit, not a lot. And that is your Tracking Trends Thursday for today, Thursday, October 9th. Anytime you have questions about the data and how it impacts you and your decisions, please reach out. You can call me or text me at 571-210-1866. You can email me at kristen@homesbymason.com, or down below, wherever you're watching this, there'll be a link to get on my calendar. If you find this information valuable, please give me a like or subscribe to the YouTube channel, and share it with other people as well. Thanks for watching, and have a great weekend.